Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason Laporte. Little change up today. My man Dalton Jensen is joining me today.
Yes,
Zach had a
man.
little prior family arrangement he had to take care of today, so I brought my boy Dalton on with me. What's up, Dalton?
That's right, baby. Thank you for having me.
How's your day, man?
Dude, I love it. It's been so good. It's snowing out here, but we're killing it, bro. We're rolling, man.
Yeah, I almost killed myself driving on the road earlier today. Anyways, so we have a very special guest today, our first bare knuckle female fighter to join us on the podcast, Charisa Sigala. Did I say it right, Charisa?
Yes, you said it right. Perfect.
Yes. I've been practicing it all damn day. I'm super excited to have you on. We started this podcast for our local MMA fighters and just to give them a platform to kind of promote themselves. And it's obviously branched out a little bit. And you are our first bare knuckle fighter. Well, female bare knuckle fighter. We have one local guy that did a fight. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
What my main question, and I'm sure we'll get to another one, but why bare knuckle?
So when they came and approached me about it, it was during COVID. So if I can't fight in MMA, I'm gonna fight somehow. So it just made sense. And I've always loved boxing, and since it's all boxing related, it's something that is right up my alley. I mean, we've all gotten into fights when we're younger, so I'm sure there's plenty of us that know what a fist feels like to the face. So it's not anything that is something that's so different, but it's a little bit different when you're already planning and signing a contract that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you're 4-2 at MMA Pro, right? 4-2.
Yes.
And I'm looking on Tapology. You only had one amateur fight, so you only took one amateur fight and you jumped right into pros.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
That's impressive.
A lot of that has to do with the age. So I started when I was older, and it was one of those things like if I want to go where I want to go, it's I was already a purple belt in jiu-jitsu at that time. So for me, I had been training mainly a year of stand-up to get into the MMA, and then obviously trying to build the jiu-jitsu into the MMA because you can't do everything. Just like you can't do all of kickboxing, in an MMA fight. You have to change a little bit. So it was just one of those things where it makes most sense the other way. Just go straight to pro.
Yeah. Okay. I'm actually curious. How do you feel about how was it for you going from jiu-jitsu to like bare knuckle fighting? And how was it like, because did you do a lot of gi or no gi jiu-jitsu?
So I'm from Gracie Baja and my black belt.
Okay.
Gracie Baja black belt. So it's mainly gi, and then we do have no gi, but it just depends on the school, which school you go to. Some places the students would rather be just in gi at Gracie Baja, so they don't offer it as much. Because when I first started, we had a lot of no gi, and we tend to do no gi more in summer. But a lot of students wouldn't go to the classes, so it didn't make sense for the professor to keep it going. So I've done no gi when I first started at Baja for a while. Just did a lot more of it when I started MMA, and most of that was at Mania. Mm-hmm.
That's a hard transition going from, gi to no gi. There's a lot of things you can't do in gi. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it was easier though, because
there you go.
Just because, I feel like it's harder to transition the opposite way because you instead of grabbing certain parts of the gi, you're grabbing onto like an arm, so you sort of have a little bit of a better sense of the way you need to grab or how you need to grab a person's body versus people getting used to like holding a grip and then. Doing gi, you are able to hold that grip a little bit more, which makes it easier in no gi because you're able to slip a grip away. So I think that's where people get a little frustrated when they go from no gi to gi because they're like, I can't do this. I've been doing this, move in, class all the time, but now I'm in gi and I can't get it. So I think that's why people get a little going opposite.
That's fair. Good point.
Yeah.
So
but I love it.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit because my main question was what was the bare knuckle thing, but backtracking a little bit, going back in time a little bit, what got you into fighting?
So I've always been a tomboy growing up. I grew up in Apple Valley over here in California. So when I grew up out there was nothing but like desert. Most of my friends were the boys next door that lived around us. We would go climbing Joshua trees and stuff. And I was always into sports. So it just was one of those things where it just was up my alley as far as what I like to do. When I was little, I always wanted to wrestle, but there wasn't really girls in wrestling when I was
Yeah.
that age. So when I found, started watching the UFC, when I got into jiu-jitsu, it was one of those things where like, oh, I want to do that. And I know I can do that. Like it's when I watch these people on the ground, I'm like, man, they should have been doing this or that. And I actually knew about it. Whereas you listen to people in the bar, sometimes you're like, what are they
Yeah.
talking about? Still, even like when now that I've been in there and you hear people commentating, sometimes you're like, you can tell you don't train at all or know anything about jiu-jitsu just because you hear some of their comments.
Oh yeah.
And
I bet.
yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like if I get a little bit better on stand up, find somewhere where they can teach me this, I know I can get in there and do it. And that's exactly where it went to.
Awesome. So are you going to continue with the bare knuckle, or are you going to go back to MMA once they start opening things back up? Or are you going to do both?
I would honestly do both. So the awesome thing about David Feldman and his crew over there at Bear Knuckles is they allow you to do both. So I'm going to do whatever makes the most sense at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of it has to do with pay and other things, but whatever is going to make the most sense to continue my career. Because, I mean, there's only so much time that you can take,
For
all
sure.
this damage to your body. So whatever it takes to get where I want to go and make the most sense.
California, are you guys having fights in California?
Not really. There's nothing out here. They don't.
Man,
In
they're
the backyard.
Yeah, I've seen some. I've seen some fights. I'm like, where are they doing this? Yeah, jiu-jitsu is pretty much the only thing that you'll see going on in California. But a lot of places aren't allowing you to do it because the colleges that a lot of places use or the stadiums that people use are closed. You can't do anything on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So they're not doing MMA, but they're doing some jiu-jitsu competitions?
Yeah, because they're held at the school. You'll see them every once in a while. Yeah,
that's right.
They have them at because there's plenty of schools that are big enough to host them, and you don't have an athletic commission to be on your back and be like, you can or can't do this.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Then run it, man. Let's go.
Exactly.
We just opened up in Utah. We have kickboxing coming up this Saturday, and then next month we got a big fight, and then in March we have more big fights. So we're starting to hopefully get the ball rolling so we can start having some local fights again, because these guys have been waiting a year, which I'm sure you're probably going crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's been a year. It's been a year for me too.
Dutch says you can't even get your hair done in California. Dutch, you just have to go behind. You have to go behind. Dutch, you have to go behind the building.
Oh no!
You have to know the person.
Seriously.
Yeah, all the salons have it closed.
Yeah. So you said it's been a year since your last fight.
Yeah, February 28th.
Yeah, dude. How has that been for you getting ready for this next one after that long of? Do you keep up with sparring, and do you keep up with training and stuff like that? I mean, I'm sure you do, but what's it like preparing after not being in for a year?
So the beginning, so I fought, and then a week later, everything was shut down. So the beginning part, so for me, I felt like, I was lucky I got in there, and I at least got to, get a fight where I know so many people had a fight planned and got it canceled because it was right after. But the hardest part was not being able to train in the beginning, because I so wanted to get back in there and to keep training, because I like to build and to learn, because no matter what, whether you win or lose, I feel like you always learn something that you need to work on. And there was so many things fresh in my mind that I was like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to work on this, and you just couldn't. But the last few months, I think most people and most businesses are like, we have to keep the business open somehow. So it's just like the salons. You go in, they have everything like blacked out as far as the windows. Some cities are a little bit easier than others to get away with things.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm not in LA County, because LA County is like the strictest one. So good thing is my gyms are out here in San Bernardino, and then some are Riverside. we've all seen the video from the sheriff from Riverside County. If you haven't, it's online where
Yes.
that's one of the things he said. He's not going to push for it. So it's a little bit easier to train out here.
Oh, there you go. Well, good for him.
I
Good
think
for him, good for you guys.
a lot of these businesses are kind of doing the training. There's that consistent training is the key to growth.
Yep, that's the only thing that's going to get you better.
It really is. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
we saw it this weekend in the UFC with Conor McGregor. Not to say he wasn't training, but 2 fights in 4 years, and then he's going against a top level guy.
That's
You
tough.
kind of got to be active.
Did you call it?
Too. I did.
Did you?
Actually on a podcast. I said that, and I said, but I didn't say it wasn't because he was training. I felt like Dustin wanted it more because he's got so much money and he's already had the belt, and Dustin had a point to prove. So I felt like he's probably gonna be training 10 times harder. And Conor, in his head, he's like, I already beat him. What's he gonna do? Even though it's years apart.
That's true.
So I can call you when we make our picks next time and place our bets.
Well, I mean, you got a good point, and I think Conor said that after. Not to get too much into that fight because this is about you, but I think he said that right. He was like, "Yeah, it's all the money. It's just." He's like, "I just got, what do you do?"
Place it.
Right? Yeah. Jeez, man, that's crazy.
So
go ahead, bro. No, go ahead.
I wanted to get back to your fight because you are actually fighting on the February 5th Knuckle Mania card for the Bear Knuckle fighting with
awesome.
Paige Van Zant on there. So that's going to get a lot of eyes on that card.
Yep, and that's why when they talked to me about it, they were like, "Okay, we have this card, which one?" I was like, "Oh, definitely the 5th. Why wouldn't I want to get on that? There's a lot of big names. Paige, it's her debut, and so many people are going to be watching. Same weight division, why not? That's the smartest move made."
Nice.
So
very smart. And
that's great.
I'm looking at the main card. You're on the main card too.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Chris Lieben's on this card.
Yes.
All right. And do you know anything about your opponent? Do you know anything about this Taylor Jenkins?
She's a kickboxer. She doesn't have an impressive record. She's one of those girls. She's a little wild, and she'll come out with really snappy punches, but that's about all she's got.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So we're predicting a knockout then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a knockout, or she's gonna quit because she's quit in a couple of other fights. So
no kidding.
Something's gonna happen.
just like a verbal tap, like hey,
turn around, turn her back.
Oh,
that's not a good sign.
Jeez, man.
Not a good sign.
Yeah, and I think she totally thinks I'm just jujitsu, but she's got something else coming.
Yeah, I would think when people are looking you up on like Tapology, and if you're a jujitsu black belt, they're just gonna automatically assume that that's what you do.
Yeah, and if you Google my name, I'm all because the first thing that'll come up is probably because Combate has their fights on YouTube, and so my fights are on YouTube. And if you watch them, I actually get in trouble from my coach because I spend too much time on my feet and not enough time on the ground. And so you generally want to go where you're the strongest at, and I'm the strongest obviously as a black belt because I've been doing it a lot longer. Yeah. But I feel like my striking is right up there. It's nothing that shouldn't be looked down on, but definitely this training camp's all been stand up, and I've been avoiding jujitsu just because not because I don't love it. I have a huge love for jiu-jitsu, and I love my Gracie Bajacino family over there. But when you're getting ready for this type of fight, you got to train the same way you're going to fight.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for
sure. All I've been doing.
There you go.
Bare Knuckle's a little. I haven't watched a lot of it, but it's. I mean, it's obviously it's stand up, but it's not really boxing either. I mean, it's a different sport.
But yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the people that are there, because you got a lot of mix of MMA, kickboxers, and boxers. So it's going to depend on who your opponent is. So you don't necessarily have to go in with that boxing type of the stance and all that. You can be a little bit different, and everything's going to depend on who your opponent is. There's certain punches you're going to want to do versus others, because the one thing you're worried about, because I'm not worried about getting hit to the face, I'm more worried about the hands breaking, because that's what you're doing. It's something where you don't have that protection between. Yeah.
That's exactly why they brought the gloves for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Protect your hand, protect your knuckle. But you wear, if I remember correctly though, you wear some kind of wraps though, right?
So you still have the wraps on. You just can't be wrapped an inch, an inch away from the knuckle. Has to be wrapped an inch away. And then in Florida, they have a glove for it's something on your hand. It's more for support for the wrist
like
and the hand.
wrist.
So,
yeah.
And the rest
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It seems to be that bare knuckles, it seems to be building. Like, I mean, obviously it's been around for a minute and you see it, but it seems to be like, you know, you got Paige coming over there. I saw Shaq at one of the events, and
yes.
I mean, what would you say to somebody? I mean, let's take myself for instance. Like, I watch every MMA, I watch every boxing fight. Like, how do I put it? Why would I want to watch the bare knuckle fight? Like, why am I going to want to watch you fight?
The most exciting fights that people usually watch are those fights when they're standing toe to toe and they're trading, right?
Yeah,
so that's what you're going to see in bare knuckles is you start 3 feet away from the person, so it's meant to get you in the action, and the rounds aren't as long, so you have less time to show your ability or to knock the person out. So they tend to be a little more intense. So it's going to be one of those things. We're standing toe to toe. You're going to see that trading back and forth that most people want to see when they go out there. So
wow. So it's
definitely will be exciting.
That's kind of like a wrestling match. You start 3 feet apart.
Yep.
You slap and then go.
Yep.
The ones that I've watched, you have to be on your toes because there's no fight and then you're touching gloves. Nope. Like, when he says fight, go. The guy is literally in the other guy's. I mean, if you're not ready, you're done. Like, I watched.
Holy cow!
So I think it was just a couple weeks ago. A guy got knocked out in like 3 seconds. It was like ridiculous.
Right, because you're that
all
close,
over the place. Yeah.
Holy cow! So what's your game plan with that? Like, so I come from like a wrestling background where I come from a wrestling background where you start like that, right? I mean, obviously there's no hitting, but it can get kind of aggressive really quick because you're that close. So how do you prepare to be that close to somebody?
I feel like that's more mentality. Like, you have to be strong mentally to be ready for that. Because no matter what, so one thing that we were always taught, something that's always like stayed in my head since I started MMA was, the person that strikes first is the person that's going to be remembered in the eyes of the judges. So in MMA, I tend to like to go like right away, try to go really close to my opponent anyways. So I think it's similar to what I would do anyways. It's just going to be less filling out of the person you would get in like a UFC or other, because you want to hurry up.
So Zach had a question for you. So how do you train for the bare knuckle? Do you have wraps or do you train with MMA gloves when you're training and sparring? So you
do a little bit of everything. You do want to train your knuckles, so you're going to want to do like you'll hit the bag with nothing on. You'll just the same way you would like condition your shins. So you're going to be conditioning your knuckles the same way. You still want to use the boxing gloves or MMA gloves. So it just depends on the day. Sometimes we'll do little gloves, sometimes we'll do boxing gloves, because you still want to focus on your power. So you're training a little bit of everything. And then there's times where we'll do mitts with nothing, no wraps, nothing, or just wraps. And obviously certain types of mitts feel way better than others. And it's different than hitting the face, but that's pretty much the biggest difference.
Yeah, man. Jeez.
That's
gnarly.
Hitting mitts on, and my arms and wrists. Granted, I don't do this stuff, so I'm like sore for a week after I'm done hitting the thing. So I can't even imagine what you guys have to do to get your hands ready.
Yeah. The knuckles don't look so pretty after hitting them, but well, it is what it is.
Yeah, dang. That's insane.
It's like jiu-jitsu, your toes start looking ugly because you always roll. Yeah,
your toes. Yeah, but what's funny is like I wrestled forever and have done jiu-jitsu for about 3 years, 3 years, and I still don't have like cauliflower ear or anything, man.
So I got cauliflower ear. I started getting. I don't even have a lot, but I got it when I was sparring with the little guys. And I don't tend to have people much shorter than me because they'll actually have a better range at hitting me in the ear. Yeah. So I got it from sparring with a little someone that was my height or a little bit shorter. But usually I'm the shortest one.
So if you go out to the grocery store and you put your hair up,
Dang.
nobody's talking shit to you.
Why would you?
But I'm very
That's
unassuming.
terrifying.
A lot of people look at me and don't think I'm like a fighter until like they actually look me up or they know that I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
So I get that a lot. You what?
I was going to say, what's the typical reaction you get when you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm a fighter"? Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually you do what? Like what? Oh,
Right.
or
Jeez.
like, oh, so you're gonna protect me? I'm like, nope, I don't get paid.
Right.
And then the other thing is, aren't you worried about your face? Aren't you worried about hurting? I'm like, no.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
And
Not really.
You have children. You have children too, right?
Yeah, so they're all older now, but when I started, my youngest was like 6. But my oldest is 19, so she's an adult. She's actually excited because I'm gonna bring her with me. And then I have a 14-year-old and 13-year-old. But yeah.
How badass would that be? Your mom's a bare knuckle fighter. Like,
that's great. That's fantastic.
I'm hoping. Because all my kids. I mean, I know I'm not dumb. They're all gonna have boyfriends and girlfriends, but it's one of those things. I'm hoping that it scares some of the boys away from my daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, you think you got to worry about the dad, right? Like, I mean, I have a daughter, she's 10, and I'm like, yeah, the boys come around, like, we're gonna have some problems, but it's not me. It'd be the mom you have to worry about kicking your butt.
Yeah, dude. Talk about that. That's fantastic. That's great.
Did you ever go to career day when the kids were younger and tell everybody in their class that you're a fighter?
I never had that when I was growing with my kids when they were growing up. I was more like you had to fill out the about me things for them, and it wasn't anything about parents. But it's one of those things like, should I tell these people? Should I not? Are they gonna let my kids still sleep over?
That's awesome. How long have you been doing? When did you get into jiu-jitsu, and what made you start jiu-jitsu specifically?
So I was like 25, I think, when I started jiu-jitsu. Yeah, it's been a little over 10 years when I started jiu-jitsu. Family was already in it, and it was something that I'm like, I want to do wrestling. This is the close thing, and it was getting huge because of the UFC. And it's a lot bigger, and there's so many schools around. And then when somebody found one, I was like, okay, let me go try it out with you, and tried it, and I loved it. It was one of those things. Especially now, like there's never been a lot of girls. When I started, the school by me had just opened up, so it was a newer school, and luckily some other guys had brought their wives, and so there was people to train. But it's one of those things where you usually don't find higher level colored belts that are female, especially black belts. So
they either don't start or they quit early or stuff like that, which is a shame, by the way. I'm totally for everybody should be in jiu-jitsu. At least everybody should be at least a blue belt.
Yeah, dude, my kids, I'm like, they all started and then they stopped. And my oldest, I was like, I think I'm going to get back into it. I was like, you need to. Especially with girls. I'm like, you need to do it.
I teach, my daughter's 5, and I try to teach her. My wife gets kind of mad at me, but I try to teach her a lot of the self-defense moves.
Yes.
As she gets into preschool, I'm like,
yeah, my mentality for my kids was always like, I don't care what you do. Like, if you have to pull their hair, you bite them, whatever, you're gonna. If somebody's attacking you, like, don't do that to attack somebody. If you are getting attacked, I don't care if you use it against each other.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, it's a good because you don't have to worry about me. If my daughter knows jiu-jitsu, you gotta worry about her.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like me and my girls are way cattier than the boys. Like my son's pretty laid back. I'm pretty laid back, but if somebody starts, I'm very catty.
Yeah. Good for you.
We have that.
Yeah. That's great. Way to go.
So, Charisa, do you have any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Right now, it's just mainly training camp. So my friend is a photographer. Her name is Pixel Roma. She's the one that's basically helped me the most, taking a lot of my pictures. So Angie Roma Santa, she's one of the ones that definitely go look her up.
Nice. So, and tell us, how can we watch you fight on February 5th? Is it on Fight TV? I think I saw. So
it's pay-per-view you can do it through Fight TV. You can get it pretty much everywhere that they have pay-per-view. I know Bear Knuckle.tv, it tells you all the ways on there.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah, I see it on here. Yeah, pay-per-view Knuckle Mania. February
There we
5th.
go.
I'm excited.
February
I'm excited
5th.
to
That's gonna
watch
be
you
Oh,
sick.
throw
so
it
am
out.
I.
That's gonna
And
be sick.
I've had photographers that have messaged me after my fights, and they're like, "Yeah, you can tell you love this because you smiled your whole fight." I'm like, I didn't realize I was smiling. That might look a little crazy, but I do.
Oh,
I
that's
enjoy
great,
being in
though.
the cage.
heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Right
Well,
on.
we're excited for you. I am very appreciative that you came on and joined us today, and we look forward to watching you throw it out in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for joining us. And oh, wait, I got a comment.
That's it. That's right there. Good, though. That's good.
There we
Though.
go. All right, Charisa, thank you very
Oh,
much
yeah.
for joining us. And we out of here. Stay tuned,
Thank
February 5th.
you.
Thank you.